Welcome to The Read Along,
a mini book club for your ears.
I'm your host, Scott.
I'm your other host, Anita.
And join us on a journey through a good book,
one chapter at a time.
Do you like talking about movies? Do you like talking about mediocre movies? Do you like talking about how you could have fixed mediocre movies? Well, I certainly do, and you can listen to me, Scott C. Bourgeois, along with my co-hosts Greg Beaver and Liam Creswick, as we give our notes, and I have some notes. You can follow it now on your podcatcher of choice or support it by visiting patreon.com/IHaveSomeNotes.
I'm broken.
Why are you broken?
I don't know. That's the killer. That's the kicker of it all. I pulled a muscle somehow, some ways, sometime last week. And by the time the weekend came around, I could only stand, be on my feet for a few minutes before down the back of my leg became very painful and I had to sit for a little while. So I feel old and frail and broken, and I've been to my RMT, and I'm sitting here with a heating pad on my butt.
So hopefully you'll be feeling better in a day or two.
I hate these, minor nothing injuries that are completely debilitating. I have reached the age
Welcome to your 40s.
Everything breaks me, and I hate it. I consider myself a relatively healthy person, if not fit, because I'm not, but healthy, right? And upright and mobile and able-bodied, and then I step wrong off a sidewalk and I break my ankle, right? I don't even know what I did. Just out of the blue, I've started to hurt. It sucks.
You could have slept wrong.
Yeah, exactly. I could have slept wrong, and now I have this injury requiring medical intervention.
Well, the good news is Anita has, as she mentioned, seen her massage therapist today. So hopefully that will improve things. And we'll be seeing her massage therapist for the rest of the month because it turns out she hasn't used any of her massage benefits for over a year.
Yeah, because there's a whole story behind this. 2 years ago, I threw my back out in another horrible, debilitating old injury, removing my daughter from her car seat. I twisted wrong, and a muscle that isn't meant to be load-bearing was suddenly bearing load.
Went twang.
Yeah, and I was in rough shape for weeks and weeks. I think I slept on the couch for almost a month.
And not because I had kicked her out of bed, but because the couch was actually more comfortable for
her. It was the only way I could get up.
Yeah.
Was to sleep on the couch. I could not get out of our bed. And during that time, I used up all of my massage benefits within a 2-month span because I needed it. And then I think I just got used to not having a massage regularly anymore because I had spent all that money already. So when this year rolled around, I just never got back on the schedule. So yeah, I came to check my benefits at the end of the year to see what I had left, if I could get another massage. And it was like, no, you're full. I'm like, what do you mean? It's December and I'm full? What? So I have booked my massage therapist every week.
Until the end of the year.
Until the end of the year, until my back feels better.
So hopefully that works out for you.
Yeah, so on the upside, my benefits are there for me. On the downside, I haven't been using them for the rest of the year when I really could have used a massage.
You definitely could have a couple occasions.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, that's where I'm at. How's everyone else out there?
Hopefully fine and not in pain.
I hope that too.
If you are, hopefully you have means of alleviating that pain or mitigating it in some way and are able to live your life comfortably. That is my hope for you.
Mine too. I don't want people to hurt. It sucks.
But unfortunately, just a fact of life for many people. One good way to take your mind off of such woes is by reading. Segue.
Good segue, honey.
So perhaps we should get into this week's chapter.
Yes.
With a brief recap of our previous chapter, which would have been chapter 9 of our novel, The Hermit, in which 13 awakens in the arms of the artist after a strange dream involving the magician, has a very lavish breakfast, and revels in the differences between her and the artist before going off to her next assassination, arriving at the apartment of the Hermit, who is basically Lulabelle's social media manager, where she discovers that the social media manager has already offed herself. Taken matters into her own hand and
left herself out the window onto the roof below.
Yeah, and left behind some simple instructions for 13.
And a cat.
And that is where we find 13 at the beginning of chapter 10, The Wheel of Fortune, for 13 Ways to Kill Lulabelle Rock by Maud Wolf.
It was the Wheel of Fortune that cracked me up.
So we begin with 13 still, like, spending some time with the cat and deciding what her next course of action is going to be when the phone rings.
Yeah, like a good old-fashioned rotary telephone.
Yeah. 13 goes and picks it up, and the real, maybe,
We think.
Lulabelle is on the other line and is like, hey, are you there? And 13's like, yep, this one's dead. And Lulabelle's like, super, you need to get over here right now because another one of the portraits has broken in and threatened me.
Tried to kill me.
Indeed. And 13 is like, okay, well, unfortunately, I don't have a car.
Or a gun.
And Lulabelle is like, fine, I will send someone to pick you up shortly. And 13 is like, cool beans, hangs up, and then decides maybe now is the time to call Spencer.
Yeah?
At the very least, things have proceeded over the last 24 hours such that 13 is ready to hear his offer, if nothing else.
Yes.
And
the plan, right?
Yeah. So she calls Spencer, and Spencer's immediate response upon picking up the phone is interesting.
Right?
Because he says, oh, thank God, have you found her?
And then 13 reveals that she is 13.
And he very smoothly is like, oh, yeah, I thought you were my dog walker. My dog got out again. This is clearly a lie.
Yeah. So this special number that she phones that is strictly for her is also for the dog walker?
Yeah. And I think the her that was being looked for was, in fact, her.
Probably.
Yeah. So Spencer's got a couple irons in the fire.
You don't say.
And I'm actually wondering if he's been on the phone with mitosis.
Maybe.
And that's who he was expecting to call.
Maybe.
Because Lulabelle also mentions a little later in the chapter that mitosis has been calling her repeatedly, like over and over and over again.
So this, fishy situation that has been very suspicious for the last little while continues to be very suspicious.
And 13 continues to not get answers, basically through this entire chapter, from every person who could possibly give her answers. She doesn't get answers from Spencer, from the Viking, or from Lulabelle.
Nope.
If it is even Lulabelle.
We don't even know. We will get there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, as a reader, I'm finding it very frustrating because now I am looking for answers. We're at the point of the book where I think we should be getting answers to our questions, and we're not yet. And it's frustrating.
Well, definitely frustrating for 13 as well. Spencer essentially soft pedals a deal here to 13, which is something along the lines of, how would you like to be the new Lulabelle?
Kind of, yeah.
That's more or less what he's kind of floating here. He also lays out some interesting information we did not have before. It doesn't really answer any questions, but it does give some context. Lulabelle has been frivolous with her portraits.
Yes.
She only gave 13 tissue samples, apparently.
We can assume means only 13 portraits.
Can be made.
Right.
Yeah, which means 13 is the final portrait.
Yeah.
At least without Lulabelle giving more tissue samples to mitosis.
Agreed.
And from the sounds of it, Spencer is upset, maybe even mitosis is upset, that she's gone and squandered all 13, in some cases on some very frivolous stuff.
Yes?
Not all of them have been frivolous, but some of them, the implication, it's that they've been frivolous. And he would prefer to have some, for all intents and purposes, spare Lulabelles, just in case. Because, as he puts it, Lulabelle is not just a person. Lulabelle is a franchise.
She's an industry.
She's an industry. And you need, like, if something happened, how would that industry continue if there wasn't a spare Lulabelle to handle it? Even though it has already been established that the legality of that situation would be very murky, because when the original dies, the portraits are all supposed to be retired.
Yeah, but if you don't know it's the original and you don't know the original's dead, you could probably get away with quite a bit.
Especially considering we know that there are portraits who can be made that are as lifelike as being able to bleed real blood.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I realize that Spencer has logicked it out to himself.
Certainly.
Gross. Wrong. Bad. Ugh.
Yeah, 13 is also a little skeeved out by it and has to fight the urge to hang up a couple times, but does hear the whole pitch before she basically doesn't give him a firm answer and ceases the conversation at this time, with Spencer being like, when the time comes, call me back.
You call me back. And I'm sure she will.
Yeah.
I'm sure 13 will at some point. Yeah, that whole conversation just skeezed me right out.
The Viking comes to pick her up.
Of course.
In another self-driving car and kind of admonishes her for having lost her gun and lost her car and lost her clothes. Like, she's wearing a different outfit.
I know.
And he points that out.
Not all of it was 13's.
No, and
fault.
she certainly defends herself a little bit because, as she puts it, she's kind of had to wing it this whole time because she hasn't had any guidance.
No.
She was given a gun and a car and sent out in the world to do this.
A gun, a car, and a binder.
Yeah, and basically had to figure it out the whole time by herself.
Yeah.
Like, if they wanted it done quickly and efficiently, they should have...
Given her more time?
Well, given her more instruction.
That too.
And given her assistance. But they did neither of those things, and now they're upset that it's taken her more than 2 days to take care of it.
Yeah.
Which is, she feels is a little unfair. She gets a little petulant with him about it.
And I think rightly so.
Yeah. He does transport her back to Lulabelle's place, gives her his gun, though he points out it's a gun that has, as he keeps pointing out, some kick.
Mm-hmm. And she doesn't want his gun.
No, she wants her own gun, which was left under a couch in Belle's house.
Yes.
Belle, who is still, we don't know what's up with her.
Yeah, we still don't know.
She was picked up by mitosis. They get back to Lulabelle's place. Along the way, having a bit of an almost heart-to-heart, because the Viking kind of almost lets his guard down.
Kind of, sort of, almost.
He mentions that the earliest Lulabelle portrait was given a chaperone, and he all but confirms that it was him.
Mm-hmm.
But
he blatantly confirms that it was him.
But he's cagey about which Lulabelle portrait it was.
Mm-hmm. I know.
Which makes me wonder if it's the one he's still working with.
Maybe.
Don't
know.
And then he drops her off at the house, and she goes in. And what she finds around the back by the pool is Lulabelle holding Lulabelle hostage.
Yes.
Now, from the sounds of it, the Lulabelle portrait that broke in, quote unquote, is actually living in, like, the guest house.
Yeah, the gatehouse, I think is what she said.
And is there close by because she is Lulabelle's actor.
Yeah, like the stand-in, the body double.
Yeah, both of them very loudly and pointedly say, no, she doesn't do my acting for me. She just does, like, the nude scenes and the stunts and all of the stuff that the real Lulabelle can't be bothered to do. But it really does sound like Lulabelle doesn't even do her own acting here.
I'm sure she does her own acting. She just doesn't do all of her own acting.
It really underscores later on when Lulabelle frustratingly says that I have to do everything myself.
From this woman who does nothing herself.
Who created clones of herself to do all of her stuff.
To do all the other things.
Including the acting she doesn't even want to be bothered with.
Yeah, the acting she doesn't want to do.
Yeah. Now, the reason why I say both of the portraits say this is because 13 can't be sure which one is the portrait and which one isn't.
Like, in all honesty, at this point, all three of them might have been portraits just fighting it out.
And both of them are in the middle of having I'm the real Captain Kirk moment here.
Yes.
Neither of them wants to get murdered. Obviously, the real Lulabelle definitely doesn't want to be murdered, but the actress doesn't either. And so she's putting her acting to good use and pretending to be the real Lulabelle. And 13 never gets a clear bead over which one is which.
No, because so one of them is tied up to a chair.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is in a pink tracksuit.
And is very pointedly like, hurry up and kill her fast.
Yeah.
And get this over with.
And the real one is, like, bound and gagged.
Yeah, but 13 notices that the one who's bound and gagged has
like lines
on her palm.
Yeah, but so does the one standing there.
Because she's supposed to be a lifelike stand-in.
Yeah.
So she ungags that one and she's like, no, I'm the real Lulabelle. She got the jump on me when I invited her over for drinks.
You thought you said she broke in.
And now she's trying to kill me so that she doesn't get retired. And this turns into a struggle with the one who wasn't tied up. The gun goes off. 13 thinks she's dead for a moment.
Yeah, honestly. 13 thought she got shot. I know she didn't, but...
But who did get shot was...
the one in the tracksuit.
The one in the tracksuit.
Who is not bleeding real blood, although it kind of sort of almost looks like real blood.
Because, again, she's a lifelike model.
Right? So I can only trust at this point, based on the wording that was in the book, that it almost looked like blood, that a portrait was indeed shot.
Maybe. It's very unclear.
I don't know.
It's very unclear if the actress or the real Lulabelle got shot in this moment. And would the actress let 13 know for sure? And here's the thing. Because then 13 has a conversation with Lulabelle, quote unquote, as they make their way into the house, and Lulabelle doesn't have answers or seem to have knowledge of previous conversations that they had.
Right?
Because when she killed Prudence over the phone, she asked certain questions about Prudence, and they discussed certain things that this Lulabelle doesn't seem to be on the level with.
Right.
Like, she asks about Prudence, and 13 is like, you already asked me about her. And she brings up, you didn't tell me what this was all about. And the Lulabelle she's talking to is like, oh, didn't I? That seems weird.
Well, here's the thing, though. That also tracks based on what we know about
Lulabelle.
about the real Lulabelle. So, like, I don't know.
It's
I don't know.
It's deliberately ambiguous in a delicious way. And we do not leave this chapter knowing which Lulabelle got shot.
No freaking clue.
The only one we know didn't get shot was 13.
Yes.
She definitely did not get shot. Also, this is the first chapter 13 gets called 13.
I know. And she calls herself 13, too.
Which we've been calling her 13
Yes.
this whole time. But this is the first time in the book that she has identified herself as 13.
Thank you, book, for validating us and our choices of naming all of these Lulabelle characters.
So what ensues is the original, I'm going to use quotations,
Scott's been
Lulabelle,
using air quotes a lot.
telling 13 that she needs to hurry it up and finish off the last portraits. Noting that she's seemingly gotten close to the artist and hasn't finished her off. Notes that a page was apparently torn out of her binder.
I don't know what that means.
Well, we know that somebody got into the car a couple chapters ago, remember?
Oh, yeah.
And she found the binder open, which she did not remember that being. So it's possible a page was torn out at that time. Possibly by Belle, if we think that Belle was the one who was stalking her.
Maybe, but didn't she have notes on Belle when she went there?
She
had the
hadn't.
address.
She hadn't checked them.
No, but she had the address.
Yeah, she stumbled there after the car accident. She didn't have time to read up on Belle. Otherwise, she would have known to go in preparing for hand-to-hand combat, probably.
Fair point. But how would she know to get to Belle if she didn't have a page on her?
Well, we don't know that that was the page that Belle might have torn out, but we don't know that it was Belle who did it. We don't know who did it.
That's true. We don't know who.
Only that a page is missing from the binder.
Right.
Which Lulabelle finds a little suspicious. And she's like, look, obviously we need to wrap this up quick. Mitosis is bringing me off the hook. Spencer's up to something. Things with the portraits are getting out of control because they all know what's up now, and some of them clearly don't want to be retired.
Clearly.
So we need to get a firmer handle on this, and that means that you officially need your own chaperone. You need someone helping you out. And
so she gets the Viking.
And so she gets assigned the Viking. And 13 is against this. She's like, I don't need this. But then she's actually kind of forced into it because Lulabelle throws the binder in the fire.
Yeah.
And without the binder, she needs someone to tell her where to go and what to do. So she's now kind of forced to go with the Viking.
I know.
She can't do it by herself. She actually has like a visceral reaction to the binder being thrown in the fire.
Well, because it's something she's had to cling to, right?
Yeah, it's been her safety net after a fashion.
Well, it's
like
her,
a teddy bear.
It's her guiding purpose, right? She exists to fulfill this binder. This book is getting very thinky on me.
I mean, it was already thinky right from the outset.
So it's getting thinkier. It's getting thinkier as we go, and I just want answers.
Well, one other answer we get is a little bit more about 12.
Oh, I was so looking forward to us getting to this part.
Turns out that 13 was not the first time that Lulabelle decanted a portrait in an effort to retire all the other portraits, but she couldn't go through with it the first time. So she sat for 45 minutes staring at 12, and when the beeper went off, sent her to brunch.
Yeah.
Because she didn't know what else to do with her.
Which explains why 12 was just sitting at a bus stop.
With no purpose.
With no purpose, just smiling at people, like taking pictures. And,
vacant. 13 actually wonders if that's what true freedom would be like.
And how awful it sounds.
Well, how awful, but also delightful. Like two sides of the same coin. On the one hand, terrifying, and on the other hand, liberating. To just have no purpose. To just be sat there blissfully unaware.
Doing whatever you want.
Yeah.
Except she wasn't. She was just sitting there being lost.
Because she had nothing to do.
Yeah. At least Belle was told, exist. Continue to exist. Your job is to exist. And so somewhere deep inside of her, that clicked as, I must continue to exist. I must be able to defend myself. I must, persist.
Yes.
12 was just sent to brunch.
Yep.
That's interesting. I wonder if the original plan was for Lulabelle to send 12 out to kill everyone else and just have one in reserve. Right? Just keep a spare portrait just in case.
That's especially because Spencer seems to indicate that the preferred way of things was for there to be a spare Lulabelle.
Oh, and his comment about, I could use another secretary. Ugh.
Well, because 13, we kind of skipped over this part. 13 asks if some accommodation could be made for the artist. Because Spencer's like, obviously you don't want to kill anymore.
Well, no, 13 doesn't.
13 is really struggling with that because on the one hand, she feels compelled by the purpose, but on the other hand, doesn't want to do it and feels weighed down by it.
Recognizes how weird and wrong this is.
Yeah, and so he's like, sure, would she be willing to dye her hair? I could use a new secretary. And that's another reason why 13 is like, I'm not happy with this.
No, and I wouldn't be either.
Also, there's a point in the chapter where 13 likens herself to feeling like a gun. She feels like a loaded weapon that someone else is holding. And toward the end of the chapter, Lulabelle voluntarily gives herself up as the hand holding the gun. Mm-hmm. And it gives 13 almost a sense of relief.
Almost.
It feels like some of that guilt and weight on her is off of her now because Lulabelle's taking a little bit of responsibility here.
Yeah. Like, I created you to do this. Like, you are doing this for me. You are the weapon. I am the wielder.
Yeah.
And it's a weird thing for 13 to process.
Well, especially when counterpointed with the Viking earlier on in the car saying Lulabelle doesn't like violence.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. Like, there's just enough of it that doesn't line up that makes me go, what is actually going on here?
It's a tangled mess.
Yes.
Like Lulabelle herself, apparently.
Apparently.
Yeah. I will say as well, just as we kind of wind down here, if this was a little more scattered than usual, it's because we actually both had to delay reading the novel until very shortly before we recorded. And Anita usually takes copious notes so that she has all of her thoughts lined out.
Right? I get to think about it and process it through, and not today. Today we're just talking about it.
Yeah, we're kind of winging it today, going by the seat of our pants.
Yeah,
so,
I finished the chapter like not even an hour ago.
So if we were a little all over the place for this chapter, that's why. But I feel like there was a lot to chew on.
Yeah, this chapter really gave me a lot to chew on. I wish I could have had more time to process it.
Well, maybe we'll be able to revisit it a little bit next week after we read the next chapter, chapter 11, Justice. You'll want to read up on that in time for next week. And of course, as always, in the meantime, you can give us a little rating and a review.
Oh, we appreciate those.
You could reach out to us on social media.
Oh, yeah. We have a wonderful selection for you. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Goodreads, and Blue Sky.
Yes.
And we are at the Read Along on most of them.
You can also send us an email.
Oh, yes, please. We are thereadalong@gmail.com.
And with that said, as always, we love you very much, and we'll see you next time.
More thinky things.
Thank you for joining us on The Read Along with your hosts, Anita and Scott Bourgeois. All Read Along music is by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com. Cover art is by Aaron Beaver. Be sure to join us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Read Along, and check out our group on Goodreads.com.